Hello, everybody. Shalom. It's Fridays with Sandy. We've got a very great candidate here. He's trying to get into INSEAD. He's already applied. Lakshay, why don't you introduce yourself and say hi?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Lakshay. I hail from the capital of India, New Delhi. Did my undergraduate in computer science and engineering from VIT Vellore, which is amongst
Okay,
the
I'm
top
gonna I'm
three.
gonna walk you through that because I'm gonna slow you down. Okay.
Top-
You're interested in your first choice is INSEAD. You've
Yeah,
already applied. What we're going to do is a mock INSEAD interview. Okay.
sure.
That's what you want, right?
Yeah,
Uh, the INSEAD interview is pretty straightforward. There's no trick questions. I think it's done by alumni. Is that your sense of it?
yeah. It's done by alumni. We have a couple of interviews with alums.
Yeah, good. And the very often the first question is, "Hi, could you tell me what you're doing now?"
Yeah. So currently, I work as a senior analyst at McKinsey and Company, where I support con- consulting cases and clients, bringing in my expertise and capabilities in analytics and technology, as well as
Okay,
um,
this is
as
real
well as.
critical. Okay,
Mhm.
this is everything. You're not talking in a conversational style. It looks like you're reading off of notes that you've prepared. Okay,
Yeah.
what they want you to do is to say, hi. Right now, I've been working for McKinsey uh, for 5 years right now in their team at wherever it is. And I've got the title of Senior Capability Analyst, and that means I do blah, blah, and blah. You get
Yeah.
the difference?
Yeah. Makes sense.
Good. Can
Maybe
you
I can
try it
take it
that way?
again. Yeah. Sure. Hi. My name is Lakshay. I've been working with McKinsey and Company for about 5 years now. And my current role is of that of a capabilities and insights analyst, wherein I help clients solve their problems by using my expertise and technical capabilities in analytics, as well as to generate insights to support our strategy teams.
That still sounds canned. You haven't got it in a conversational way. Do you understand what I'm saying and you can't do it, or you think you're doing it right?
No, I think I understand, but maybe any pointers that you'd like to give that I can probably use.
Got to make it conversational. If they say, "Hi, could you tell me what you're doing now?" You go, "I'd be happy to. I work for McKinsey. I've got the title of Senior Capabilities and Insight Analyst. And what that means is I do things like one, two, and three.
Yeah,
You get the
and
difference?
sure, sure. So, hi, my name is Lakshay. I've been working with McKinsey and Company for about 5 years now. I work currently as a senior capabilities and insights analyst, wherein we help clients bringing in our capabilities in analytics and technology, as well as helping them generating insights to implement strategies.
That's still boilerplate. Quite frankly, from listening to that, I do not have a real clear idea of what you do. This is real important.
Yeah.
You've got to be able
So
to explain it.
yeah. So basically, what I do is obviously leverage analytics as a tool to solve problems for the clients by building in analytical solutions, as well as I use analytics to generate insights, which
Give me an
will,
example of
which,
that.
yeah. So for the tools part, just to give you an example, I developed like a end-to-end visibility platform for a manufacturing client because they were facing this
I'm having
issue
a hard
of
time.
not.
You're not setting this up right. You're just talking. You're not the way you answer the question is let me set the scene. I'll be happy to give you an example of that. Last month, I worked with a client in the manufacturing sector, and McKinsey was hired to help this client, whatever. And what I was in charge of doing was this and this. Do you get the difference?
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Understood. So I think just last month, I was working for a manufacturing client based out of the subcontinent, with the problem that they were not able to manage their shipments on track, and they were having a lot of delays, which is why they also lost an important client. So McKinsey was hired to basically solve this problem, to identify
Okay,
delays
what
and
was the problem they were hired to solve? Let's cut to the chase here.
yeah. So the
This is
problem
real
that
important. You got to be able to do this. They are absolutely going to ask this. If you can't give a clear, concise answer, it's very damaging.
yeah. So I think what McKinsey was hired for was A, to solve um, for the problem of delays, and second, basically identifying the root causes for
The
delay.
problem of do it this way. I'd be happy to give an example of that. 3 months ago, I was part of a team with McKinsey. We were hired by a manufacturing client, and the problem we were addressing was,
Okay.
and here's what I did as part of the McKinsey team. I'm going to stick with this for a while. You've got to internalize this answer. It's something that you have to have in your back pocket, and you can just flip it out. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Agree. Yeah. So I'll be happy to give you an example of what I do, right? So 3 months ago, I was working for a manufacturing client, which was dealing with a lot of delayed shipment issues, which is why they also lost one of their prominent clients. Now, McKinsey here was hired to A, identify the problems in their value chain process, and B, help in resolving them. Where I
Yeah,
stepped in, my role,
this is just boilerplate. You could be describing anything. McKinsey was hired to get their shipments out quicker, or to figure out what the delays were. Get the
sorry,
difference? You're giving a generic answer. What we want to know is an answer was, I was working with a manufacturing client. McKinsey was hired by the client because it was suffering delays in getting products out of their warehouses, or whatever the
yeah.
truth is.
Hmm.
Can you say it that way?
Okay, yeah. So McKinsey was hired because the client was facing delays in their shipment processing, because of which they had delayed deliveries and lost a few critical clients.
Yeah, okay,
My role,
that's pretty good. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, McKinsey,
my,
we were hired by a client that they had delays in getting products out the door, and they lost a couple of key clients.
yeah.
What we were hired to do was one, two, and three. Excuse me. Can you say it that way?
Right from the top, or should I start from?
Yeah, no, this is worth pausing on, man. This is critical. And after we're done, you should play back this tape and say, I understand what Sandy is saying. I really have to get this story internalized.
Agree. So hi. I was basically working with a manufacturing client 3 months ago, which was hired because it lost a couple of critical clients because of delayed shipment deliveries. Now, our task was to, one, identify the root causes for these delays in their long value chain process. And
Yeah, how do you
second,
do that?
also,
How do you go about doing that? That
yeah,
seems
yeah.
impossible.
So when we were hired on ground, we first tried to understand what is their long value chain process. What I identified was a couple of problems. Number one, what they were doing is they were doing bulk processing of shipments, because of which there was no visibility as to which shipment is processed versus which shipment is not in the bulk.
Uh, this is I'm not understanding you. This is really critical. You got to break it down into smaller parts and make it conversational. What you're doing is you think you're at a you're doing a PowerPoint explanation. They don't want that.
Got it.
They want it
So
quick and they want it conversational.
yeah. So I think there were a couple of problems that we identified. One was their siloed ERPs for each and every value chain process, because of which they didn't have end-to-end visibility of the manufacturing process. Therefore, they were not able to
No,
identify.
that's implied. We discovered two problems. The client's own divisions were siloed. They weren't talking to each other. That was one
Yeah,
problem. Another problem was they weren't good in communicating with the client. and another problem was when they lost a client, they never asked for feedback from the client. Okay, I'm making this up, but you understand that's the way a good answer sounds.
Agreed. Okay. Got it. So I think there were three critical problems that we identified. Number one was their siloed value chain process, which was not talking internal communications, which was a big issue. Number two was their bulk processing of shipments, because of which they missed some of the shipments in between. And number three was the communication with clients on these delays as well as shipment deliveries.
Did I guess correctly what the three problems were, or are you just repeating back what I said?
No, I think the first two problems are what were the real problems,
Okay,
and the
good.
third
Okay,
one
what did you
is,
do about it?
yeah. So basically, once we identified this, I devised an end-to-end visibility platform that will link to their all of their siloed ERP systems, and I also devised an algorithm to be able to reverse engineer their bulk shipment process into single shipment trackings. Due to all of this, we create
Yeah, stop. You're still turning this into a PowerPoint. In an interview, they just want the highlights. You know, when I was hired, the first thing I did was I spoke to everybody and said, gee, fellas, what do you think the problems are? Then I met back with my own team and we decided that what they needed was this. And then my job was to transfer what my team said they needed in a way that they could understand. And here's what we did. Okay, that's the way you got to answer the question.
Yeah, more used to the consulting style of it, with just presenting what it is rather than being in a conversational tone.
Yeah, it's the kiss of death.
I think the first thing that I did was to talk to all of the ERP heads, the value chain step heads, and understand what their problems are. To which I, I I figured that all of their problems stem from not being communicative with each other, right?
That's getting
And
a
the
little
next step that
better. Okay, you got to work on that. Let's just get through this because I want to cover a lot of areas. Could you tell me
I
about why you attended Velour Institute of Technology, VIT?
yeah. So I think as a science major in my education before undergrad, I wanted to pursue engineering as an option. And I was more inclined towards understanding the new age technological developments. And that's why I chose computer science and engineering and chose VIT specifically because A, it was very far away from, like, I belong to the north of India, but VIT is in the southern part of India in Tamil Nadu. So I think the diverse culture that I could experience there, plus it was amongst the top schools in the country for doing engineering. So I think those were the two major reasons why I chose VIT.
Once again, that sounds like a PowerPoint, and you're not conveying the truth. You know, I went to high school where it was a academically oriented high school in X, which is in the southern part of India. When it came time to apply to colleges, I was interested in the IITs and the VITs, and I applied to these schools. Uh, I visited several schools and my options were A, B, and C, and I chose VIT because you get the difference.
Yeah, yeah, got the difference.
Hey, could you tell me why you went to VIT?
Yeah. So as someone growing up in an academics focused school, I pursued uh, science as my first major before undergrad, which really
This,
and
this is nothing. This is not answering the question. It's not responsive. You're just giving us a lecture out of nowhere.
yeah,
I
I
went to
think
high
maybe I can.
school in this place. Do you get what I'm saying here?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So I went to high.
your job after this mock interview is to really play it back and go, boy, is Sandy right? And here's what I have to do to correct it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll definitely do that.
is there a friend of yours who could give you a mock interview, or maybe someone who's actually at VIT?
Not
Just
at VIT,
asking.
but I have a couple of people who are right now doing the INSEAD MBA program.
Yeah, well, ask them if they could give you a mock interview, or ask them to look at this and see if they have any suggestions.
Sure. For sure.
Good. How did you come to you start working at McKinsey?
Yeah. So I think during my during placement seasons at VIT, I applied. I was majorly interviewed at PwC, wherein I got the offer, and then I also interviewed at McKinsey, where I was the only one selected out of a pool of 800 applicants for my role at McKinsey.
How come you think that was the case? How many people did they interview?
They interviewed more than 80 people.
And there was one offer, and that was you.
Yeah,
How come?
luckily. I think one was the problem solving skills and the first principle thinking skills that at least I think from my perspective that they liked about me. And secondly, I think it
Yeah,
was
you got to back
also,
up a few steps there. You know, as you may know, when McKinsey interviews people, they give you kind of practice tests, and I did very well on those. So that was one
yeah,
thing I had in my favor. And then the interviews went well because our interests aligned. I was interviewed by two people, and they were very interested in what I was doing. And I had actually done some homework on McKinsey. I had spoken to people who worked there who had gone to my high school. So I was really informed. So I think those were the reasons. It's a little bit of luck, a little bit of preparation on my part.
okay,
Got it?
makes sense. Yeah.
Tell me about a leadership. Tell me about a engagement at McKinsey where you played a leadership role, and what was it?
So we were basically serving an Indian NBFC, a non-banking financial client, um, for their SME credit underwriting transformation, wherein essentially what we were doing were three things. So I was leading the work stream wherein we were doing three things. Number one was to optimize the
Man, I'm lost. You got to be able to present this in a much more clear and conversational way. This is an absolute frequent question. Tell me about a, a situation or an experience where you got to play a leadership role, and then they'll drill down on that. You know, what kind of leader were you? What was the size of the team? So the answer is during the X engagement, McKinsey was working with a client, and I was in charge of this sub project, and I was leading four people. Two of them were other McKinsey analysts, and two of them were people from the client. And the challenge was this, this, and this. And here's how I was able to exert leadership, you know, both informally and through just asking questions. If you got a story like that.
okay. Yeah. So I can maybe give it another shot. Um, so McKinsey was working with an Indian NBFC wherein we were trying to solve their problems on growth
I'm
transformation.
lost already. An Indian what?
Indian non-banking financial clients.
Yeah, spell that out. Okay.
Yeah.
Or non-banking financial client.
Yeah.
Is there
Those are
some way you could
basically,
just tell us what it was? I realize there's confidentiality, but
so
what
basically,
were they?
yeah. So basically, those are companies which are not banks but are a lending player.
Okay, McKinsey was working with an Indian lender. It wasn't a bank, but it was what they call a non-banking financial client. Uh,
Yeah.
and so that's the situation. And how I, here's what I was, here's what my team was, here's what the problem was, here's how I exercised leadership. Can you do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Sure. So McKinsey was hired by an Indian lender, a non-banking financial company. So these are players who typically lend in the market but are not banks. I was particularly um, appointed to lead a team of two data scientists two internal McKinsey data scientists as well as several clients to be able to do three things. Number one, we were working on the SME business or the SME credit underwriting part, wherein the number one ask was to optimize their credit journeys, right? Because they had a
Yeah, all
turnaround.
you're doing is filling in background. You got to get right to the point. You know, I was working for a lender. They had a special problem. It was this. We don't have to know everything. Okay. We don't even have to know this non-banking stuff. Just McKinsey was hired by a Indian lender. Their problem was this. My team was addressed that problem this way. Do you get what I'm saying? Right to the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. So McKinsey was basically hired by a Indian lender, and they had three particular problems. Number one was their high application time. Number two was a lot of manual processes that they were doing. So we were basically hired to transform their whole SME credit underwriting segment, wherein I was leading a team of two internal McKinsey data analysts.
I was working on a project at McKinsey where we were working with a lender. We were working with their loans to small and medium enterprises, and I was hired to do this. What did my version leave out? That's important. Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
Hey, like I said, I'm not trying to break your nuts, but this is important. Yeah, I think if you play this tape back, you'll get it.
Yeah.
You should be able to have answers for these questions. Give me a good leader, give me a bad leader. INSEAD questions, actual questions are on the internet. Just, I'm sure you've done. Have you Googled INSEAD interviews?
Not so much. I wouldn't say I've practiced a lot, but I've seen through a few of them.
Yeah, their questions are pretty standard, and a lot of them are on the internet. So do that. As soon as this is over, just Google INSEAD interview, and you'll come up with a lot of helpful documents and people who, have been through the process and give the questions.
Yeah.
But here's but they're standard questions. Who's a leader? Who's the best leader you ever worked for, and why?
One of the leaders that I inspire to be of is one of the partners in India, whom I have worked with on multiple client engagements, on multiple banks because he's a banking partner. I think there are a few qualities that I liked about him. One is I think enabling the junior colleagues. So while I was working on a project, he asked me to lead one of the conversations with the CXOs, which I think really enabled me to present my findings to senior leaders. So I think
so
one
that
is
was a great opportunity. What you go, I work with this guy. He had a lot of faith in the associates, and he gave you chances to, shine. Like a project I did with him, he said, why don't you do this presentation?
Yeah.
And he was, and then his feedback was very helpful. What's the best thing he ever said to you?
I think the number one thing that the one thing that I also liked about him is that he would during the project he would make sure that you have regular check-ins with him. And during one of these check-ins, he just told me that okay, you are doing good on your hard work, on the groundwork, but what you're not able to do is the upward management. To be able to communicate that with us as leaders, that's what's happening on ground with and also with the client leadership. So I think you need to increase your visibility with the McKinsey as well as the client leadership on what you're doing.
What else is there to say? What exactly did he say?
I think just bring more visibility to upward management.
He said what you have to do is present more to upper management.
Yeah.
That's outside your control, isn't it?
No, I mean, whatever work I'm doing on ground, just presenting that and making sure upward management is in sync with all of those.
What did you do about that?
Yeah, so I think firstly I scheduled like regular touch points with the internal McKinsey leadership just to make sure I give them status updates on what's happening on ground to bring them more visibility. And second, also with the client leadership, we helped organize like mini steering committees to be able to present our findings and our updates.
How much do you know about INSEAD? This is a question I often ask.
Yeah, I think
what's your diligence been? What's your diligence been?
Yeah, I think the first time I got to know about INSEAD was when I just joined McKinsey. One of my managers told me about INSEAD and how it is like a great fit for business leaders. So I think that's where my journey with INSEAD started. I've also seen a lot of people I've also interacted with a lot of people from INSEAD to understand the diverse culture that INSEAD has with over 70 plus nationalities and the kind of experiences that the diverse experiences that the cohort brings in.
This is made up bullshit, and you could substitute any business school for INSEAD in that answer.
Yeah, I think one unique offering that I particularly like about INSEAD is their personal leadership development program, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, how is that different from the same program at any other business school?
yeah, I think it gives you
Yeah,
like
you
a
get my
per-
point.
yeah, it gives you like a
Here's how I know
one-to-one
about INSEAD. I had a friend who went there, and she liked it a lot. Also, a couple of people at McKinsey that I was working for went there, and I asked them about their experiences, and I was taken by this and this, and I visited INSEAD, and here's what struck me about the visit that was very powerful. That's the answer. You get it?
Okay.
Can you give me a roadmap? Like, where do you want? What would be a good job for you after business school, and what would be a good second job? And where do you see yourself at the kind of height of your career?
Yeah. So I think post my MBA, I want to pivot into strategy consulting from an analytics consulting role that I'm currently doing. So that's option number one. So I would target the MBBs to join them as a strategy consultant. And number two, as a backup option, I would also try to explore financial roles as investment banking, private equity, and venture capitalists because I have a knack for finance. With my work to do in banking, I have learned a bit of finance, and I want to explore that option further.
Okay, let's say you joined a leading consulting company in a strategy role. What would be your next step? What would be the next part of your career?
Yeah, so I would try to focus on the financial services arm, which is what I've also done at McKinsey, to be able to grow my expertise in financial services domain. And then my long-term career vision um, is to lead a bank or a non-banking financial company in Southeast Asia, promoting the SMEs because they are the backbone of the economy.
Yeah,
So,
give me an example of people who do that.
who do that? Um, I have partners in McKinsey who are financial services focused banking partners. So I would aspire to be someone like that.
When I join McKinsey, what I'd like to do is try and get involved in financial services, and that could mean doing this or that. And then my next move would be what?
My next role would be that of an engagement manager, where I'm leading end-to-end engagement of a financial services uh, firm, which will enable me to think through holistically on all the aspects of a financial services company and help me become a better leader for my future goals.
What are your future goals?
Yeah, I think my future goals are to either lead consulting practice in the financial domain, or be a leader of one of these banks and NBFCs.
Good. They may ask you to name some of those banks or point to people. What you should be able to do, here's some homework. Be able to identify those banks that would be a fit with your goals. Talk about people who have roles you want. Make it sound like you've really studied this. Like a great second job for me would be to leave McKinsey and join the A bank or the B bank. I know people who've done that, and this has been their experiences. Another possibility is to stay within that practice at McKinsey. So that would
100%.
be the second phase of it. And
Sure,
then,
sure.
then you have to be able to say, name someone whose job you want in 25 years.
I think number A would be to be a senior partner in McKinsey, leading the financial services domain. We have a
Okay, you
couple
go,
of
well,
people
one
like that.
person would be Joe Blow, who is a
Yeah,
senior partner at
yeah,
McKinsey. Okay, and then can you give me someone else who's not in consulting?
yeah. So I think number one would be to be a senior partner at McKinsey, McKinsey, BCG, or Bain. One of the people would be someone like Akash Lal, who heads the Asia banking business for McKinsey currently. Other than that, secondly, It could also be someone who's a bank leader, someone like Mr. Uday Kotak, who leads Kotak Mahindra Bank in India and has created or made
Good.
Kotak
So you
Mahindra
need
Bank
people
what?
like that. You need to do some homework. This is fun.
Yeah,
That's the way it's going to go. What you have to do, this is just critical, man. You've got an INSEAD interview coming up. You go on the internet, look at, you know what the questions are. You just have to answer them in a more conversational, conversational and personal and informed way. Okay, that's your homework.
yeah, that's very helpful, Sandy.
Good. Okay, good luck, and let us know how it turns out. All right.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sandy. Take care.
Good
Bye.
talking to you.